Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Doctrine Dialogues. I'm your host, Paul Bollinger, and today I'd like to talk to you about evangelism methods, specifically with relation to modern and postmodern thinking. There's a lot of talk, or at least I've heard a lot of talk about pre-modern, modern, and postmodern thinking. And I tried to find a graphic to illustrate it. Most of the graphics that I find online, most of them are pejorative to at least one of the viewpoints, whether it's pre-modern, modern, or postmodern. But this is the best that I could find here. Pre-modern thinking basically says God put it there. That's the way it's always been. Truth comes from up there, from God, or truth is found in the Bible. And so pre-modern thinking is very theistic. It's very, it's very centered on God. Modern thinking is what, I think it's what myself and what a lot of my older generations kind of grew up with, and it's the thinking of, we're going to make progress. Truth is found out there, so science is valuable. Engineering is possible and useful. And so modern thinking is very deistic, or it's either deistic or atheistic or really kind of agnostic of we're going to go out in the world and we're going to find out what works. It's very practical and useful in a practical sense. Postmodern thinking is, well, you can see it's all scrambled and doesn't really, not even readable. Truth is found in here. Basically, it's the concept of, it's a concept that I make my own truth. I decide what's true for me. And I think that, frankly, all of these viewpoints are useful in different areas of our life. And I think that we naturally roll in and out of them. For example, modern thinking is useful when you want to build something. If you want to measure stuff with a ruler or measuring tape and, get out the saws, work on your car, engineering, mathematics, mechanic work, science, that's all modern thinking. It's truth is out there, I'm going to discover it, I'm going to put it to practical use. Pre-modern, frankly, I use this a lot when I'm talking to my children because they're at that age where they ask why to everything. And you try and answer their questions, a modern mindset, you try and answer their questions, but eventually you just get to the point and they say, why do things exist? Well, you've got me to the point that God put it there. And I tend to be more pre-modern than most. I think I jump to, why did this happen? Well, God caused it to happen. And so I think that, for example, if there's a natural disaster, I think you can go to a pre-modern mindset and say, well, God caused it to happen. You can also go to a modern mindset, like if there's an earthquake, you can say, well, the tectonic plates moved, and it's like, yeah, they did move, and that created the earthquake, but why did they move? Well, we don't really know. We can assume that there was gravitational shifts forcing, gravitational forces shifting, or maybe some magma or molten core of the earth was moving, and that's all good assumptions or whatever. Well, what made that move, and it's basically the concept of, in pre-modern thinking, well, what caused the earthquake? Ultimately, God did. And so that's pre-modern and modern. Postmodern, I think we use this a lot when we interact with people that don't share a lot of our own culture, because postmodern thinking basically allows us to get along with people that we don't normally agree with. And so we can spend time with others who share dramatically different viewpoints and basically agree to disagree. And that's kind of the postmodern thought of, I have my truth, you have your truth, and we're just going to let it be as it is. So there's a three different mindsets, and like I said, all of the images that I found pretty much pick one or two of these mindsets and berate them and say, oh, pre-modern's bad, or postmodern's bad, or modern is bad. No, I think that we naturally switch between all three throughout our lives, and some people, you can be too pre-modern to the point that you deny science and engineering. You can be too modern to the point that, well, you can't explain the beginning of the universe, or you can be too modern that you are unable to get along with people that share different viewpoints, and you can be so postmodern that, well, you draw squiggly lines and you have contradicting views in your own beliefs that no one can hold coherently together. So there's definitely an appropriate place for these views in our lives, though. And now I'd like to kind of switch gears, talk about evangelism. Because when I hear about evangelism in the church, generally what I'm exposed to is some sort of modern evangelistic methods where we basically try to tell people, hey, here's the facts for God. And those are strong. If you study apologetics, which is basically a defense of the faith, if you study the reasonings, the facts, the history, the information that we have to back up the Christian faith, our modern faith, our modern thinking towards the faith is very strong. And so I can see why people would want to argue others into the Christian faith. But I think that now, as people tend to be more and more postmodern in their thinking, uh, people tend to be more postmodern than modern and pre-modern. And in postmodern thinking, it's, well, I've got my truth, you've got your truth. And so you can argue all day and tell them, hey, here's the facts about Jesus. And they'll go, that's really cool, man. That's cool for you, not for me. And just go on believing whatever they want to believe about God. But what I have found is that instead of trying to use modern methods of evangelism, why not just use postmodern methods of evangelism? And postmodern, like I said, it kind of deals, I think it helps with relationships. And so what I mean by that is I've been able to evangelize to a number of people who have postmodern views. And the way that I do it is I tell them, I say, hey, look, God's real. Why don't you talk to him and see if he's real? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I talk to God, I pray. And when I pray to God, he does stuff for me. He interacts with me. He makes my life better. So, it's really cool. Something that I have. Maybe you should pray and see if God does the same for you. And so what I found is that postmodern people are willing to try that. They're willing to try to pray to God. And then when God answers their prayer, because we do have a living and active God who's more than capable of standing up for himself. But when people pray to God and say, hey, here's what's going on in my life. I don't know if you're there or not, but if you are, I'd appreciate a little help. I'd appreciate you making yourself known. And when people do that, they pray to God and he answers. And they go, whoa, this is different. This is new. I think I like this. And that's the thing about postmodern truth is you choose truth that you like. Modern truth is, well, it's true whether you like it or not. And while that may be reality, in postmodern thinking, you choose what truths you will live by what truths you want to be true. And so I've been able to show people through prayer and by encouraging people to pray that, you know what? God being true is something that you want. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you can see that there's ways to evangelize outside of simple facts, which is a modern viewpoint. Maybe pre-modern would be something like miracles, which I guess is praying for people too. But you don't just have to argue people into the faith. You can pray for them, which I guess would be pre-modern, and you can ask them to pray, which would be kind of a postmodern thing. And I think at least I've seen good results with it. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Put it to practice. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Comment, because I am not infallible. I am not the Pope. And I very much appreciate questions and differences of opinion because they help us all learn. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining me with the Doctrine Dialogues. This is Paul Bollinger. Have a good day.